I was 12 years old the summer me and Damien found that place. It was late August 1993, rural Ohio, the kind of place where everybody knew everybody, but there were still patches of land nobody really went to anymore. There was this old farming facility about 2 miles behind the neighborhood where we lived, shut down for years. Barns falling apart, silos rusted, main building boarded up. Kids said it was haunted or whatever. We didn't care. We were bored. Damien was the one who wanted to go. That was him. He needed to see things for himself. I was more cautious, but I wasn't going to let him go alone. That's just how it was with us. It was a Thursday, I think, hot and sticky the way August gets out there. We'd been riding bikes all day, kicking up dust on the back roads. At some point, Damien just said, "Come on, man, what's the worst that can happen?" I didn't have a good answer for that, so I went. We left our bikes hidden in tall grass near the tree line and walked the rest of the way. The fence had a bent section near the south corner, already pulled back like someone had been through before us. We squeezed through without much trouble. Inside, everything looked how you'd expect. Old tractors with flat tires, rotten wood piled up, broken glass on the ground. The main building had a side door half open. Damien pushed it wider and we went in. It smelled like mold and old motor oil, concrete floor covered in dirt. We walked through a big open room with empty shelves and rusted machinery, just looking around, not really touching anything. Then we heard voices. At first I thought it was wind or the building settling. Then it got clearer. Deep voices, more than one, not loud but close. And underneath that, something else, someone crying, low and steady, and it didn't stop. Damien froze and looked at me. Even at 12, we both knew. We stayed quiet and moved toward the back, trying to see without being seen. There were men in what used to be a loading area. I couldn't tell you much about them. I couldn't really see them clearly, and honestly, I wasn't trying to look that hard. I just knew they were adults, and they were not supposed to be there, and neither were we. One of them turned his head and looked straight in our direction. He stopped talking. The others noticed. Someone shouted. We didn't wait. We turned and ran. Back through the big room, out the side door, across the yard toward the fence. I felt a hand grab the back of my shirt, and I yanked forward hard and kept running. Whoever it was close enough that I felt the pull. I got loose, I don't know how. We squeezed back through the fence and hit the open field. Damien was a few steps ahead of me. The sun was going down. That late August dark that comes faster than you expect. We were cutting toward the tree line where our backs were. That's when it happened. Damien was a little ahead of me. I heard him make this short, surprised sound, like he was about to say something, and then there was a thud, heavy and solid, and then nothing. I kept running for another second before I realized he wasn't beside me anymore. I stopped, turned around. He was gone. Just open field, grass and dirt and old fence posts. I called his name. My voice sounded small out there. Even at 12, I knew that kind of small. I walked back slowly, scanning the ground, and that's when I saw it. An old well. Concrete ring around it, mostly swallowed by weeds. The wooden cover had rotted through in the middle. It had probably been sitting there for decades. Damien ran right over the weak spot and went straight down. I got on my hands and knees at the edge and looked in. Just dark. I couldn't see the bottom. I started calling his name. Damien, Damien, you okay?
My voice cracked on the second one. Nothing came back. I lay on my stomach and tried to look deeper. I could smell wet stone and something rotten underneath it. After a minute, I thought I heard something faint, a groan maybe. I still don't know if it was real or just my ears after all that running. I didn't know then either. I just knew he wasn't answering. I didn't have a phone. Neither one of us did. We was 12.
I stood up and looked back toward the facility. I couldn't see the men anymore. I didn't know if they'd stopped at the fence or if they were still coming. I didn't wait to find out. I ran toward the road. When I got there, I flagged down the first car I saw, an older woman in a blue pickup. I was crying and talking too fast, and she couldn't understand me at first. Eventually, she got it. She called 911 on her flip phone. Police and fire came, lights and ropes, and a man who went down with a harness. It took almost 2 hours. They got Damien out alive. His leg was broken in 2 places, bad cut on his head. He wasn't talking right when they brought him up. The paramedics said he'd probably lost consciousness on the way down. His family moved away about 3 weeks later. His mom told my mom the doctors found something with his brain from the fall, bleeding or swelling. I don't remember the exact words. He stayed in the hospital a long time, then went somewhere that specialized in kids with head injuries. His mom said he didn't remember much about that day. Didn't remember the building, didn't remember the men, barely remembered me. I never saw him again after that afternoon. Nobody ever talked about the men. The police asked me a few questions, but they seemed more focused on the fact that we were trespassing than anything else. They never mentioned finding anybody when they searched the place. I still live in the same area, drive past that facility sometimes. The fence is still bent in the same spot. Someone put a metal cover on the well a few years back, but the concrete ring is cracked and half buried in weeds. I've never gone back inside. Most nights I'm fine, but sometimes when I'm driving at dusk and the light gets that certain way, I think about that thud, the way it sounded, solid, final, the way sound can just stop and take everything with it. And I think about what his mom said, that he doesn't remember. I still don't know if that's true or if he just doesn't want to.
Me and Ari worked the same closing shift at the same gas station for 8 months. Nights, just the 2 of us. You get close with someone like that whether you plan to or not. She was the type who said exactly what she thought and didn't apologize for it. I admired that about her, most of the time. It was a Tuesday. We clocked in at 10, slow shift, maybe 4 customers the whole first half. Normal, until he walked in around midnight. Nothing about him made me look twice. Guy in his 40s maybe, cap pulled low, work boots still dirty like he'd come straight from a site somewhere. Except he didn't go straight to the register. He walked the aisles first, slow, like he was in no hurry at all for someone who came in for cigarettes. Ari was at the register. I was in the back doing inventory, but I could hear everything through the door. I don't know exactly how it started. Something about his change, I think. He felt shortchanged, or he didn't like how Ari said something. It escalated fast. By the time I came out front, he was leaning over the counter and he was calling her the N-word not once, repeatedly, like he was comfortable with it, like he'd said it plenty of times before and nobody had ever made him stop. His voice was low and controlled, and that was somehow worse than if he'd been screaming.
Ari wasn't backing down. She was matching him word for word, and at one point, she looked him dead in the face and said, "Oh, you think that bothers me? Baby, you're a 50-year-old man buying Newports at midnight. You don't scare me, you're just sad." And then she slid his change across the counter without touching his hand, deliberately, like he wasn't worth the contact. He went completely quiet for a second. I used that second to step between them and keep my voice low and tell him his total was fine and we didn't want any trouble. He looked at me for a second like he was deciding something. Then he grabbed his stuff and left. We watched his car pull out. Ari was shaking, but not the way scared people shake. She was furious and almost energized by it. She kept replaying it out loud, going back through every word like she was building a case. At one point she laughed, this short, sharp laugh, and said, "I can't believe he thought that was going to work on me." That was Ari. She didn't let things settle inside her. She processed out loud or not at all. I told her she was right and he was wrong, and I meant it. I just wished she'd let me handle it sooner. That was around 12:30.
By 2 a.m., we had almost forgotten about it. We were doing the closing checklist, music on low, just trying to get through the last hour of the shift. The parking lot was empty, no cars at the pumps. Then Ari stopped. She said his car was back. I looked out and she was right. Same car, parked at the far end of the lot, under the one light that always flickered. Just sitting there, engine off, no one getting out. We both stood there for a second, not saying anything. I told her to go lock the front door. She did. I called our manager, got no answer. I tried again, nothing. It was 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, and we were two women alone in a gas station, and his car was just sitting out there in the dark. He sat in that car for 20 minutes. I know because I watched the clock. At some point, Ari whispered, "Maybe he's just eating or something. Maybe he's not even thinking about us." I wanted to believe that. I almost did. But neither of us moved away from the window. That's the thing. We both knew. We just didn't want to say it out loud. Then he got out, and Ari, I'll never forget this. She straightened up, squared her shoulders, like she was ready to go another round. I put my hand on her arm and told her to stay back. She shrugged me off, but she stayed. He walked straight to the front door, tried the handle, found it locked. He stood there looking in at us through the glass. He wasn't rushing. That's what I remember most. The first time he was loud, heated, all over the place. This time he was completely still, just looking, like he'd already worked out how the night was going to go. He walked around the side of the building. I told Ari to get behind the counter, and I grabbed the phone to call 911. I was mid-sentence with the dispatcher when I remembered the back door. That feeling hit me before I even heard it move. 8 months of propping that door on slow nights, and in that exact second, I knew. I knew before the handle turned. He came in through the back. It happened fast, but I remember it slow. Ari was closer to the back door, and she moved toward it to push it shut. He got through before she could. Ari said something to him. Even then, even in that moment, she said something back. I don't even remember what it was. And he just shoved her. No argument, no escalation, just force. Like her words meant nothing at all anymore. She hit the shelving unit sideways and went down. And I heard the metal rack before I saw her on the floor. He stood over her and said something low, almost calm, and that was worse than the shoving somehow, the calm of it. And I think that's the moment her brain caught up, because after she hit the rack and went down, she didn't say anything else. She just looked at me from the floor with this expression I'd never seen on her before. Not anger, just shock, like she'd finally understood something she couldn't ununderstand. I didn't think. My hand just moved. I grabbed the nearest thing, which was a glass cleaner bottle,
heavy, full. I threw it at him. I don't know if I hit him or scared him, but something in his face went flat. Not scared, just done. Then headlights came through the front window, a truck pulling into the lot for gas. He looked at the lights, then at me. Then he walked back out the way he came. I got to Ari. She had a cut on her arm from the shelving, and her face was red where he'd grabbed her trying to push her down. She was crying, not loudly, just this quiet kind of crying that's worse than screaming somehow. The police came. They took a report. They found his car 2 streets over, empty. They never caught him. We both quit that job within the week. Ari moved back home. I haven't worked a night shift since. I still think about that propped door. 8 months of the same routine, the same closing checklist, the same small habits. And the one night it mattered, we just left it open. It wasn't even a decision, really. It's just what we always did. That's the part that stays with me. Not him, not his face through the glass, just that door. How something that small, something you don't even think about, can be the thing that changes everything.
I was in my 2nd year of college when I met Abigail. We weren't close, not really. She was just my dorm mate, and honestly, at first, I thought she was interesting. Quirky, you know? The kind of person who has a lot going on underneath the surface. I liked that about her. What I didn't like was the other stuff. She was deeply spiritual. I mean, deeply. She lived with her grandparents before college, and they were the same way. And I think whatever they practiced, she brought every single piece of it with her into that dorm room. From the first week, I noticed things. Small things. Little charms hanging near the door. Incense burning at odd hours. Certain objects arranged on her windowsill in a way that felt deliberate, like they weren't just decoration. I asked her once, awkwardly, what some of them were for. She whispered. She actually lowered her voice when she answered me, which made it weirder. She said they were for protection. I didn't push it. She had this routine every single morning before class. She'd spray something on herself. I don't know what it was. It didn't smell bad, just strange. And she'd murmur something under her breath. A chant, I guess. Short, repetitive. She did it every single time she left the room, without fail. I got used to hearing it without meaning to. Then, one afternoon, she handed me a necklace, a small pentagram on a thin chain. She said she'd sanctified it, said it was for my protection, specifically against evil. I took it because I didn't know what else to do in that moment. I said thank you. I think I put it in my desk drawer that same evening. I'll be honest, by October I was already looking at apartments for the following semester. I didn't say anything to her about it. It just felt like the right move. The night everything changed, I'd been out with friends. It was a Tuesday, late. Nothing unusual about the day. I remember we'd gotten pizza. The weather was that kind of flat, gray cold that doesn't feel like fall yet. I came back to the dorm around 11. Abigail was on the couch. I thought she was sleeping. Her eyes were closed, she was still, and she was holding that pentagram necklace flat against her chest with both hands tight, like she'd fallen asleep gripping it. I almost just went to my room. I don't know why I stopped. Something just felt off about how still she was. I said her name. Nothing. I said it again, louder. Nothing. I walked over and touched her shoulder, and she didn't move, and that's when my stomach dropped completely. I tapped her. I shook her a little. She didn't respond. I screamed for help. I don't even remember deciding to scream. It just came out. My other dorm mates came out into the hallway, and somebody called 911, and there was a lot of noise and movement, and I was standing there with my hands shaking, and I didn't know what to do with them. She had a seizure right there in front of us. It lasted maybe a minute,
maybe less. Then slowly she came back. Her eyes opened. She was crying, these quiet tears just running down the sides of her face. I was crying too. I didn't realize it until someone pointed it out.
Later that night, after things had calmed down some, I sat with her, and I asked if she had any health conditions, any history of anything like this. She said yes, she did. And then, before I could say anything else, she said her ancestors would heal her. I told her to cut that out. I told her we needed to see an actual doctor, get an actual diagnosis, that what just happened was serious. She looked at me and said it was none of my business, that she was handling it. I went to my student counselor the next week. I didn't feel good about it, but I also didn't see another option. The first time I went in, she basically told me to encourage Abigail to seek help herself. I told her I'd already tried that. She nodded and said she'd look into it. I went back 2 days later. That time she took it more seriously. They contacted her grandparents, got everyone in a room, and eventually got her in front of a doctor. Abigail didn't fight it exactly, but she wasn't cooperative either. She sat through the whole appointment like she was doing everyone a favor by being there. Turns out she had arrhythmia, a heart condition, the kind that doesn't announce itself until it does. The doctor said she needed treatment, monitoring, real changes to how she was living. For a while, she actually listened. She cut back on the incense. The chanting got quieter. The room even started to feel normal again. And for maybe 6 or 7 weeks there were no more episodes. I thought that was it. I thought we were past it.
One evening I came back from class and found her on the bathroom floor. She was conscious, just sitting against the wall, completely still, holding that necklace again. She said she was fine, said it was passing. I asked her if she'd called anyone, and she shook her head. I stood there for a second, not knowing what to do. And then I just sat down on the floor next to her, and we didn't say anything for a while. She never went back to the doctor after that. I tried once more. I sat across from her and went through the whole thing again. The diagnosis, what the doctor said, what could happen if she kept ignoring it. She listened. She let me finish. Then she said her ancestors were healing her, that it just needed time. She wasn't angry about it. She was calm. That was almost worse. I remember sitting there feeling this slow exhaustion come over me. Not anger anymore, just nothing left. After that, I stopped bringing it up. There was nothing left to say that I hadn't already said. I started keeping my door closed more. We'd pass each other in the hallway, and she'd smile, and I'd smile back, and that was most of it. The incense came back, the chanting came back, everything went back to exactly how it was before, maybe quieter, but the same. I left for summer break in May without saying much of a goodbye. I told myself I'd check in at some point. I didn't. On a Tuesday night in July, I was scrolling through our school's social page and I saw a post. Abigail had been found in the dorm. She was gone. There was a note beside her. 2 words. Sorry. S-A-L. Not signed, not explained, just that. I don't know who Sal is. I never found out. Nobody seemed to know, or if they did, they didn't say. I still have the necklace in my desk drawer. I never wore it, never touched it again, really. But I've never thrown it away either, and I don't think I will.
I met Christian my freshman year of college. We were assigned to the same orientation group, and honestly, I didn't think much of him at first. Quiet guy, kept to himself, always had a book. But somewhere between bad dining hall food and pulling all-nighters before exams, we just became brothers. That's the only word for it. Not friends, brothers. He was one of those people that made you want to be better just by being around them. I'd been kind of all over the place growing up. Made some bad choices, ran with the wrong crowd for a while. Christian never judged any of that. He'd just talk to me, straight, no lectures. He was 19, going on 45. Old soul doesn't even cover it. After college, we got an apartment together, split the rent, got jobs at the same construction site. Nothing glamorous, but it was honest work, and we were doing it together, so it was fine. There's one thing you need to know about Christian. He had a thing about water. Deep water, specifically. He was 27 years old and had never once been swimming. Not in a pool, not at a beach, nowhere. When he was around 8 or 9, he watched his little brother drown in a river near where they grew up. He never really talked about it in detail. He didn't have to. You could just see it in him any time water came up. He'd get this still look on his face, and that was it. Conversation over. There was a lake about 10 minutes from our apartment. I'd go out there alone sometimes, especially in summer. Just swim, float, decompress. It was my thing. I'd ask Christian to come hang out sometimes, even just to sit on the bank. He always said no, and I always understood why. About 2 weeks before June, I woke up around 2 a.m. to Christian talking in his room. Muffled, but I could pick up pieces. He was on the phone with his girlfriend Jenny. From what I could hear, he'd had a dream that someone in his family drowned. He sounded shaken in a way I hadn't heard before. For the next several days, he was praying every morning before work. Not unusual for him, but it was different this time, more urgent, like he was trying to keep something away. He didn't bring it up to me directly, and I didn't push.
June 7th was his birthday. I planned a picnic. Him, me, Jenny. Nothing big, just sandwiches and a cooler by the lake. Sit in the grass, eat, just have a good afternoon. He was hesitant when I said the lake. I could see it immediately. He didn't even try to hide it. But I told him straight up, we're not swimming, we're just eating outside near the wire. A picnic. He agreed, but I could tell he wasn't fully committed to it. We got out there around noon. It was warm, slight cloud cover, not too hot. We laid out the blanket, set up the food. It was good, honestly. Jenny was great, easy to talk to. They were clearly happy together. We ate, we laughed. It was simple, normal. And then, all of a sudden, I got the urge to swim. I looked over at the water, and I just wanted to swim. Not like a thought I could argue with, just a decision already made. I told myself it was just 30 minutes. I told Christian I was going in for a quick swim. He looked at me. That look still stays with me. It wasn't anger, it wasn't fear. It was like he was watching something he couldn't stop, like I had already crossed a line I couldn't see yet. I told him 30 minutes max. He didn't answer, just nodded slightly, like it wasn't worth arguing anymore, like he already knew how this would end. I went in. The water was cold in that early summer way, sharp at first, then comfortable. I swam out, floated on my back, let it carry me. For a while, nothing existed except the sky. Then I looked back toward the shore. Christian and Jenny were walking toward the water. I lifted my hand to wave. They waved back. I didn't think anything of it at first. I just kept swimming. Then I saw Jenny step into the water up to her knees. She was looking at something below the surface, I think. At least that's what it looked like from where I was. Christian was standing right at the edge watching her. He didn't move for a second. Then he did. He didn't test the water first, didn't pause at the edge. He just walked in like he'd already decided something I wasn't there for. I started swimming back toward them.
I remember the lake going quiet before anything else, not quiet like peaceful, quiet like the water just stopped doing what water does. Then they were gone, both of them. No splash, no struggle, just under. I remember stopping completely in the water, like my body forgot what to do next. Then I moved again, faster this time. Jenny came up first. She was screaming, not words, just raw panic. And then I saw him under the surface. Christian wasn't moving. I went under. The water was dark, visibility almost nothing. I found him by instinct more than sight. His leg was caught between something, rock or root. I never fully understood it. I got it loose, pulled him up. When we got him to the bank, I saw his neck. It wasn't right. His neck looked like it was snapped, like he'd hit his head on something. The autopsy later said blunt force trauma. Likely struck his head on submerged rock on impact, probably unconscious before drowning. Probably. That word stuck with me. Probably. He was 27 years old. It was his birthday. He had never once gone swimming in his life until that afternoon. I've turned that day over in my head so many times I've stopped counting. The picnic was my idea. The lake was my choice. I knew what it meant to him just being there, and I still went in. And somehow, he ended up in the water anyway. I don't have an answer for why he went in. What I do know is that I carried June 7th everywhere, every single day. I don't put it down. I don't think I'm supposed to.